Marketing Scoop, Season 2, Episode 12. Integrated marketing campaigns from the SEM Rush Australia Search Awards. Recorded on the SEM Rush YouTube channel, this is Marketing Scoop. I'm David Bain.
And I'm Judith Lewis. And welcome to the SEM Rush show that reveals the latest digital trends and technologies that impact your marketing strategy.
Together with industry experts, we delve into SEO, advertising, and content marketing to uncover the ultimate recipe for digital marketing success. Today's guests have all produced outstanding campaigns for the SEM Rush Australia Search Awards.
Joining us are representatives from an agency, a digital business, and digital growth consultants, all based in the good land of Oz.
So first up, a man who describes himself as a digital dude. He's talked at conferences, e-commerce events, and seminars across Australia for the past 5 years, and he's a senior digital strategist at Impressive Digital. Welcome to The Scoop, Russ McCumber.
Thanks so much, David. Thanks, Judith. Good to be here.
Next up, a man who's been building websites and online businesses since the days of the 56K modem and made his first dollar online from annoying pop-up ads. Nowadays, he's the head of strategy and growth at Web Profits. Welcome, Duncan Jones.
Thanks. Good to be here.
And lastly, an omni-channel marketing pro whose specialties include copywriting, content strategy, and SEO. His current job title is just simply Marketing Maestro. Welcome, Matt Laurie.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on board, Matt. So today we're going to be talking about the outstanding entries from the integrated marketing category of the SEM Rush Australia Search Awards.
Now, I was the head judge of the SEM Rush Australian Search Award, so I know the standard of entries was high, and you were all among my top scorers, so I'm pleased to have you with us. Firstly, Duncan, as the winner of this category, I was wondering if you could give us an overview of your winning entry.
Yeah, sure. So our winning entry was for a client called Aussie Broadband. They were a small rural telco a couple of years ago, and the NBN, so the fibre internet, was getting rolled out across Australia. So they could either compete or die. So they decided to compete and build their own nationwide network, which is obviously pretty expensive. And they started working with us and decided that they need to scale up their marketing. So they're on for one of our growth marketing services, which is multi-channel integrated. And they decided the revenue back then was like 12 million. After 1 year, they got it to 25. And then the award entry that we put in was when we took it from 25 to 50 million and how we got there.
That's fantastic. So you utilized a lot of different channels, and I know that it was really impressive to the judges how integrated this particular entry was. So what were the different channels that you used? Obviously, the listeners to the podcast, and in fact, my fellow co-host haven't read your entry, so it's a little bit of a secret. So can you let us in a little bit on what you did?
Sure. So first, we had to work out who to target. Everyone needs the internet, right? But you can't target everyone, especially when our budget's tiny compared to Telstra's, which is 200 million a year or something like that. So we decided to narrow it down to a target market that would see the value of the network. It was a time where fibre internet over here, we had congestion problems. It was really slow. It was getting a lot of bad press. And they decided that they'd build their network and do the opposite, offer enough capacity for their customers. They put a stop sell in place so they wouldn't sell anymore if they couldn't take any more customers on. So offering an actual genuine good product. We decided that the people that would see the value from that would be the tech enthusiast crowd, people that actually understand that the fibre internet can be faster than what the other big providers were offering. So we decided to target those people. And the good part about targeting those people is everyone's got a tech friend that tells them what internet to get. They've always got someone giving them advice on how to improve, and they speak to their friends and bring on their friends and family. So by targeting one small sample, we knew that we should be able to grow referrals and word of mouth quite well as well. So we worked out who to target. Then we had to work out what to target them with. So we brainstormed with Aussie Broadband's team. They've got quite a big marketing team to integrate with our team. And we decided that the time that was most annoying, that the internet slowed down the most, was around 6 p.m. Once people got home, their internet went slow, everyone turned on Netflix and that sort of thing. And then that's when congestion really hit the worst moment. So the creative campaign that we came up with was say no to the 6 p.m. slowdown. So everything we did across all different marketing channels was just about the 6 p.m. slowdown for about a year. It's no longer a problem now. I wish it was for Aussie Broadband's sake, but NBN made some changes and the NBN's a lot better now. But back then it was really bad. So basically we launched the 6 p.m. slowdown campaign. We utilized Facebook ads, of course, targeted at those times to people that were probably on their mobile phones using 3G because the internet at home wasn't that good. We used email automation, so a lot of email automation. And we pretty much used every channel, but we didn't limit ourselves to channels. I mean, obviously Google and Facebook have got the majority of traffic over here, but they're not everything. So we used comparison websites such as WhistleOut. We used offline advertising. So we did a lot of direct mail, which actually worked pretty well because the NBN gets rolled out in areas. So your geo-targeting needs to be pretty good, which works well for Facebook, not so well for AdWords at the moment. So yeah, we did a pretty broad range of things. The offer was also pretty important. A tech enthusiast crowd are pretty skeptical. There's, I think, 200 or 100 NBN providers. So there's a lot of different people they can go with. We knew that if we got them to try the network, they would experience that it was good, that it was a lot better than the other ones and that they'd be hooked. So we offered no contracts at all. We gave a free trial, free 30-day trial, where they could literally get connected because they knew what they're doing tech-wise. They could unplug their, I don't even know it myself, but yeah, they could unplug all the cords and they could test the network while still being connected to their pass provider, which meant they could actually just test it out. So the offer was a huge part of the marketing as well, which the Aussie Broadband team worked on.
So you leveraged all of the channels, so social, paid search, organic search, videos, everything. So there was there any channel you left behind? Was there any child left behind, ignored?
So the way we do growth marketing is we brainstorm, like we'd sit with their team and we had a 2-day brainstorm session, their team and ours, down in Morwell where they're based, and came up with every idea, every channel, every tactic, every campaign, and put them into an ICE prioritization sheet. So a model, a way of prioritizing what you do by the impact it could have, how confident you are based on past experience, and how easy it is to implement. If something's huge and takes 6 months, there's no point prioritizing that at the top. Then we just went out and rolled them out one by one. Heaps of them failed. AdWords was pretty expensive, bidding on NBN provider and things. Like if there's 4 big telcos here and there's 4 spots on AdWords, it becomes quite expensive, of course. But we definitely tested all the different channels, and then we just ensured that we tracked everything and optimized based on that, our spends and things like that. So let's say we have a lead come in, we wouldn't just optimize based on volume of leads. We'd actually measure whether that turned into a sale, work that back so we could work at our cost per sale. It's a pretty manual process, or like there's not many companies out there that have that process down pat exactly, especially with big sales teams. But yeah, we worked out ways to do that. And so we optimize each channel by cost per sale. So some channels dropped off pretty quickly. Some channels were unexpectedly good. So Aussie Broadband created a video, which was why your internet sucks and why it doesn't have to, which just explained literally why the big providers could actually increase the internet speed, but they weren't. And that we uploaded that and it went viral. It got hundreds of thousands of views with not much advertising dollars behind it. So there's some things, and it was just literally like this, someone talking to the camera. So there's some things that you wouldn't have expected to work, but they're all worth trying. And as long as the messaging is the same across all the channels and you portray the same, the same message, then it can really resound well with the target market. We focus after the funnel as well. So it's not over once the sale came in. So we focused on getting referrals. We created a referral scheme because we knew that target market were likely to refer, as I mentioned before. We focused on getting reviews, and there's reviews saying they promised that wouldn't slow down at 6 p.m. and it's true. And then we use that in our marketing to reinforce it, but from the consumer's own words.
I tell you what wouldn't have worked in London, the 6 p.m. slowdown. It would have been the 9 p.m. slowdown here or something like that.
Once you're home.
6 p.m. is not a bad time to get home. Anyway, that's another story. So you've given us quite a lot of detail there about the different referral sources that you used. I had a couple of questions in mind. I think you answered one of them. What I was thinking was, you mentioned Facebook ads. Did you have a standard kind of customer journey that you identified, and did you deliver a different type of ad depending on what stage in the customer buying thought process that person was in? And the other question is, you mentioned a little bit about reviews. Did you have an actual process that you tried to encourage people to go through to encourage every single person who signed up to become an advocate?
Yep, definitely. So the first question, AdWords and Facebook, right? AdWords is the active audience looking for an MBA provider. Facebook, you're interrupting someone in the feed. You have to have a good offer. We tested direct conversion focus, like here's what we do, we're an NBN provider, get interested, but people weren't as interested in that. So we tested just simply check your availability, put in your name, email, and phone number and check your availability to see if you can get the NBN yet, because it was in the news, everyone wanted to know if they could get it. And that worked really well. In their first month, they got 6,000 leads. We actually should have scaled it down and not scaled it up that much because the sales team couldn't handle it, which you learn in hindsight. But you get excited as a marketer, and when something's working, you scale it up as much as possible. So we did, but essentially we push people through to an availability check, but they're not really ready to buy yet. So we had an automated email sequence that would send every, I think it's 4 days, based on what speed they could get, based on if construction had started. Their IT team are really good, so they managed to build the checker to work out if construction had started or what stage the MBM was at. And then we took them through a journey of content, upsells and offers and sales copy, but also evergreen content to keep adding value to that person while they waited for the MBN. On their side, they'd also built that availability checker into an SMS notifier that notified all those people as soon as the MBN became available in the area. So that meant that by the time the MBN went live in one area, we would instantly have lots of customers ready to go, or lots of people that had already been preconditioned and knew of Aussie Broadband. So yeah, Facebook's a bit different, but if you can get the offer right, it's just about the offer. The offer has to stop them in their tracks and think about something different. And for Aussie Broadband, it was the availability check.
So it sounds like the type of campaign
now it doesn't work as well.
It sounds like the type of campaign that needs tens of people to implement. How many people did you have in your team?
So we had 7 in our team, not working full time on that one client, but they are one of our bigger clients. So we had 7 across all channels. And then on the client side, they've had around about 3 or 4 back then, now up to 8 or 9. So not huge teams, just working by prioritizing things. You work on the things that will give you the growth the fastest. So we just make sure that we're only rolling out the things that are actually going to make a difference, and we cut out the ones that aren't working pretty quickly, rather than just being stuck on SEO because the client's paid for SEO for a year. Like, we'd rather just chop it, and if it's something's not working, change it.
Superb
and the
stuff.
second question, about reviews. So yeah, we created a review generation strategy. So a lot of companies get reviews and they get them written on their own website. We didn't want to get all the reviews and testimonials placed onto Aussie Broadband's website because we could do that anyway through other sources. So what we wanted to do was actually get them out onto the review platforms themselves. In Australia, there's like a big one called Product Review. So we wanted to get them out so that they would be a marketing channel in their own right. People these days are, I think, going more to review sites, working out which brand they want to deal with, then going to the brand. That's happening quite a bit. So review sites now for Aussie Broadband are quite a big source of traffic. So you'd see it as more of a, if you'd got it on your own website, you wouldn't get that source of traffic. So we created a system where within up to 30 days of becoming a customer, we knew they would have tried the network, been happy with it, and had a good experience by then, because all the customer support for Aussie is based in Australia. It's like a really easy setup process. We triggered an email, took them to a website and just checked how satisfied they were. Are they having a good experience? If they were, then we'd basically push them out to different review sites that we wanted to build up the reviews on, which we could change as, like, a product review got heaps of reviews, all of a sudden we might take that off the website and put Facebook reviews on there, or a different broadband review site. if they weren't having a good experience, we didn't want to lose them as a customer because of the recurring customer. So we basically got them to tell us why, and then sent that to the customer support team at Aussie, who made sure they solved that, especially when that was someone that was possibly going to leave a review. So yeah, we definitely had a process to generate reviews. You have to ask for them. You can't just expect they'll come. You'll get some organically. It's like SEO and links. You'll get some reviews organically, but you'll get way more if you ask for them, especially if you can gauge when your customer is at their happiest. And that's the hardest for an agency. Like, how do you know your client's at their happiest? But for a broadband provider with a good product, it's a bit easier.
And how did you know that? Did you have to wait for a month or so until someone had experienced the broadband before asking for the review?
There's so much stuff going on that we didn't put too much thought into that, but we just knew that it was working so well. In hindsight, if you could look at all the organic reviews you got and when they were placed and work out when they became a customer and average out the days between when they became a customer and when they placed an organic review, that's probably a pretty good time to ask. Or you could run surveys and things like that. We just don't want to run surveys for the sake of a survey. So I'd rather be wrong for the days and not bother the client and bother them with something else that's more valuable than to try and get those specifics exactly right.
Well, you can certainly see the great result publicly on the product review website. Aussie Broadband 4.5 from out of 5 stars from over 1,500 reviews. You compare that with Telstra, 1.7 from over 2,000 reviews. 1.7, that's an awful score. But I like how you can see people interacting there from Aussie Broadband as well. So people are engaging with the reviews as well.
Yeah, so we reply to all the negative feedback. The customer service team rings them up, tries to solve the issue because, I mean, it just looks bad. And if you look at the telcos in Australia, all of the reviews are bad. Like there's a couple of good smaller providers that offer a pretty good service, but yeah, it's pretty easy to stick out. And that's now, if we turn off all of our paid ads, that would still bring us a lot of traffic, a lot of sales, and a lot of word of mouth. So it's well worth asking your customers for reviews and pushing them to the right places.
Great job. Okay, well, let's move on to Matt. So, Matt, I know you didn't win this category, but you went on to win 2 other categories for Yellow Octopus. The campaign for the living room, which was a bit of a risk, paid off. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how it worked as an integrated marketing campaign?
Yeah, sure. So this campaign was sort of came about. It was more of a circumstantial campaign. It wasn't something that was part of our strategy, but we developed a relationship with one of the TV shows here in Australia, The Living Room, which is one of the most watched across Australia. And they reached out to us looking for some products. We sell sort of really quirky and unique products, and they've got a segment where it's called Hot or Not, where they basically show some products and the audience decides whether they're hot or not. So that sort of developed, but that's right at the top of the funnel. So even before brand mention, top of the funnel. So they were showing our products, but they weren't necessarily willing to mention our brand on air. So the problem for us was to actually take that audience who'd seen some of our cool products and try and move them through the funnel to actually associate those products with the brand, and then eventually actually convert those people into customers. It was really good because the living room audience basically was a perfect overlap of our customer demographics. So it was like mums 28 to 36 with young kids, which sort of makes up about 70% of our demographic. So it was a really great opportunity to tap into that huge audience. There's about 500,000 people who watch that show every week. So that was the sort of challenge. How do we sort of get these people who are viewing the products to actually buy them from us and not go somewhere else? And we know that sort of 80% of people are using multiple devices at the same time. So they're not just watching TV, they're on their mobile phones at the same time, or they're on their iPad. They might even be shopping at the same time as watching this show. So it provided a great opportunity to use some other marketing channels to try and grab that audience that we'd already had that first touch point with. So the way we sort of went about it was everyone watches TV and goes on Facebook at the same time. So everyone's having a scroll of Facebook while they're watching TV. So that was the obvious point to start the journey, was on Facebook. And just because, you know, there's such great targeting options on Facebook, we could actually target the people who like the living room on Facebook. So, and hit them with some engagement ads as the show's airing. So hopefully they're scrolling through their feed, they're watching the show, they see this product, and then they see the product again on Facebook from us. As Duncan kind of pointed out, it's really, really important to have that single-minded proposition when you're running an integrated campaign. So
what does an engagement ad look like to actually interrupt someone and really get someone interacting with your ad instead of doing what they initially intended to do?
So we tried to use the messaging of you know, voted hot as seen on the living room. It was using the sort of messaging that connected us to the TV show that they'd just seen. So only sort of, not all of our products are voted hot, so it's not really worth doing when they're not voted not hot. But just using that that messaging, if someone's a regular viewer of the TV show, they recognize that hot or not language. So it was important on the Facebook ads to get a really nice visual of our product, and also the same language that they use on the show. So as voted hot on the living room. So we were sort of we had a cost per engagement that we were going for, and we were well under that. People just loved seeing, you know, that it sort of saved them going out and having to find that product for themselves. It was right there in front of them. So that was the sort of first step of the process. But you know, it's quite difficult to get people to convert on Facebook at their first touch point. It doesn't really work like that. You know, they're like, oh, this is a cool product, I'm gonna like it. But actually getting them to sort of click through and buy it is another beast altogether. So that's sort of where we brought in PPC. So we were hoping that the people who saw it on Facebook would then jump into the search engines and type in the product. So we bid on some sort of pretty broad match keywords around the product, because you know, not everyone knows the exact name for that product. So we wanted to capture all those people who'd seen the product on TV, seen our Facebook ad, and then jumped into search and they're like, oh, I want to check out a bit more about this product. So it was important that we were at the top of the page and not our competitors. So it was really important that after that product features, that we were bidding quite aggressively on those keywords. We knew that conversion rates are actually higher in this period because people want this hot product that they've seen on TV. So you could kind of bid a little bit more aggressively with your PPC than had it been any other time. And again, it was really important to use that same messaging, voted hot as seen on Channel 10's The Living Room, so that they knew that we were the original providers of this product, and really capture those clicks. And so, you know, so that was the kind of next stage in the process. And then obviously all those people who actually get to the website then move into our retargeting funnel. So whilst they might not buy the product in that first interaction, they're then going to get our retargeting ads with that product. And eventually, for people who did sort of engage with with our Facebook ads, we were then able to market to them down the track and show them other products that had also been voted hot on the living room. So yeah, it's I think integrated is all about utilizing the different channels for different goals and moving people towards a particular action, and each of those channels serves a different purpose. So you know, you've got your engagement, and then you've got your conversion, and there's a lot of points along that path in the funnel. So integrated, it's about getting all those channels to basically talk to each other for a common goal.
So engagement was your first metric there that you brought in for Facebook. What were you able to actually measure the financial value of that first interaction, or was that quite difficult to do?
It's always difficult to measure the impact of each channel in an integrated marketing campaign, particularly that's particularly at the top of the funnel with stuff like engagement, because depending on what sort of attribution models you're using, and I think what tends to happen in marketing is that the top converting channels get all the credit. So PPC and SEO get all of the credit because that's where the transaction takes place. So I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of saying, oh, well, let's just do SEO or let's just do PPC because they're the ones getting us cheap conversions. But actually, the value of that engagement at the top of the funnel is invaluable in actually getting those people to convert on those channels like PPC and SEO. So I think that the way we sort of do it is we have a cost per acquisition that we're working towards, and we know from the data that we have over several years, we know how much of that we need to put into engagement. We know how much we need to put into the conversion, and then how much we need to put into retargeting. So you've just got to use your own data basically to come up with. There's no one right or wrong way of measuring these things, but if you've got a $5 acquisition and you know you need to put 20% of that into engagement, we sort of work it out like that. So that's sort of how we sort of do it.
So you've been measuring every step of the way, each part of the funnel, what that is worth to you. And then you've been, breaking out your budget so that you can make sure that you've got everybody in the right channel and the right funnel at the right time, and making sure that that engagement started at the beginning and went all the way through, especially, as you said, they weren't willing to actually mention your brand when they displayed the product.
Yeah. So that was sort of, that was a difficult point. One of the hardest things originally was that they didn't let us know which product was going to be featured on which night. So we managed to arrange with them that they'd let us know in advance, but only sort of 12 hours in advance. So it was a frantic sort of rush to get everything set up before the product features. But yeah, it's worked out well so far.
So do you think that you were able to react that quickly because it wasn't going through multiple different stages, yourself, an agency, somebody else again? It was all quite rapid response and kept very tight rein of.
Yeah, I think we use we've used digital agencies, and but these sort of things, because they're so I guess time is of the essence. It was easier for us to use our internal team and just react really quickly. It's sometimes in digital marketing you got to move pretty quickly. It's super important that I think, and that's where integrated campaigns I think are important, is is capturing those moments. And like with Duncan's example, those moments might be just temporary, like the 6 p.m. slowdown. So you got to get people like right at the point when their need for your product is at its highest.
And of course, your products are always needed because we all need fun in our lives.
That's it.
That's incredible. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So looking at Russ's campaign, Russ, your campaign for Billy J Boutique really wowed the judges as well. You won the e-commerce award, and I know that there was a lot of sort of back channel discussion as well about what was going on during the judging session, because it was really impressive, and we discussed it quite a lot. Could you tell us about the integrated elements of this campaign? And really, very interestingly, perhaps you could tell us about the funnel you created.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a campaign we were super proud of it. We were very, very keen to nominate it for a couple of awards, and I guess it all comes back to, and I was talking to Matt about this previously, and what Duncan's sort of spoken about, when you've got as a marketer, when you've got a really solid product, like you connect with it straight away, and you know there's going to be a target market that connects with it. That's kind of the foundation needed for any of these campaigns to work really, really well. And when you with Billy J from the get-go, that it was going to be something which we really wanted to work with. And when they approached us to work with us, because we have got a very strong e-commerce background, and specifically within fashion, we've got a number of big clients who we've had some good success with. So when they came to us to talk about running their channels, it was a good opportunity for us to put together an omni-channel / integrated recommendation for them to really take them to that next level of growth. And what they'd done prior to engaging with us was quite impressive. They'd been running for about 4 years. So Billy J is a fashion label based out of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, here in Australia. Online retail, specialising in lots of kind of ready-to-wear fashion items, maxi dresses and the like for females, and anything from sort of 21 to 35 in the age group. Over 4 years, what they'd done, the owner and her little marketing team had done some really good things within social, within organic search, within paid search, and had some really good growth. But what we were able to do, and the timing of it was actually quite fortuitous for them and for us. The owner of the business was actually just about to have her first child, so she was in urgent need of someone to come in and really take control of everything that she'd been doing herself. And what we found when we jumped in there and just did some initial analysis was, based on the growth that they've been able to achieve themselves over the 4 years, and especially the sort of 18 months to 2 years prior to us coming on board in around June 2018, was they built up a lot of data. They'd had the pixel running for Facebook. There was a fair bit in their analytics for us to read into in their Google Ads account, and they'd had some really good successes just based on really good product, really responsive service, really being able to deliver on quality product for their customers. But what they hadn't done was a lot of optimizing. There wasn't much of a funnel approach. There wasn't really a lot of testing across the different channels, let alone within the different parts within each of the channels. And the channels were kind of running independently of one another, which is interesting. Even though they were doing it all themselves in-house, there was kind of, okay, well, this is how we speak to Google customers. This is how we're going to speak to Facebook customers. And then, if we're talking about organic customers, again, that's a different type of language potentially and copy. So we were able to just bring that all together and just really build out a proper cross-channel, full funnel approach with really specific messaging across the different parts of the funnel, and got some really quick wins, which was really good. There was some low-hanging fruit. As a marketer, you're always trying to preach patience with your clients, and this is going to take some time. There's some foundation we need to build in, and I remember when these guys came on board, it was just a few weeks in, and things just sort of skyrocketed, and we were like, okay, well, how do we manage these expectations? Because this isn't sustainable. This isn't the types of results which we can say are going to continue on. But they did. They kept on rolling. We had some big results across all the different channels. Things like a revenue increase of 544%. We had some massive SEO growth. They started ranking for some really big volume terms where they were ranking, one or two behind some big sites like The Iconic and ASOS, and then you'd see Billy J, or Billy J would be above them. So that was really, really pleasing early on to be able to hit the ground running, get them some results before we'd even done any thorough testing. So that was a really, really positive start to our work with this particular client.
So when you were, I'm hopefully not going to give too much away, because of course I know your entry and no one else does. When I mentioned earlier about the funnel that you created, the cross-channel funnel that you created,
Yes.
was this as the result of the data that they had already gathered, or was this something that you had to specifically do for them? And if it was something that you specifically did, is that something that you can share with our audience where they might be able to try to not replicate it exactly, but maybe emulate it for their own business, where we've got small business owners as well listening to this and hoping to do better for their business?
Yeah, for sure. It's probably a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. So we saw all the data there and went, okay, there's some really meaty stuff in here for us to work with. We can see where we need to be popping some more media, where we need to be focusing a little bit more at different parts of the funnel. But the way we approach any of our omni-channel strategies is we have basically like a pod of staff. So for this particular campaign, they had we had two from our SEO team, so an SEO specialist and a content writer. There was a Facebook / Instagram specialist. There was a couple in paid search as well. But it's really about making sure that they all come together. And rather than going, okay, well, this is my funnel, and this is my funnel, and this is my funnel, it's just approaching it as one unit and then across to the side. And it's really a visual thing. So it's about all getting in one room and going, okay, here is the overall funnel. Here are our different channels, and here are the ways. Here are the types of messages and the types of channels we're going to hit them at Tofu. Here's the types of channels and the type of messaging we're going to hit them through the middle, and then here it is at the bottom. And then, as Matt was saying before, it's about making sure that we're breaking up the media to a level where we are using our experience to make sure we're hitting the right amount of customers. But it's also about making sure that quite often, especially customers that come to us who have not worked with an agency before, and this is probably good for people listening or watching who are running their own funnel, quite often people will go, okay, well, the low-hanging fruit is at the bottom of the funnel. They've been to our website, they've seen a particular product, so let's just smash them with ads, and let's put a big chunk of our budget at the bottom of the funnel. But obviously what you're doing then is you are limiting yourself in terms of filling up the very top of the funnel and trying to figure out where are our new customer segments, where are our new customer markets, where can we get some new wins. So we often find with a campaign like this is we might completely flip the media spend and the way it's divided on what they've done in the past to what we're going to do moving forward. And we can get a bit of pushback sometimes where people will go, why are you putting all of this money at the top of the funnel when they're not ready to buy yet? We know that they buy and we get really high multipliers at the bottom of the funnel. And it's really about educating them that yes, the people at the bottom of the funnel, they are by definition much more likely to buy, but they haven't just appeared there generally. They've generally come through some kind of approach where you've brought them down, and having a good understanding that we need to keep filling that top of funnel with potential new customers, prospects across all channels, and then which channels do we use, and then how are we messaging to them, and are we making sure that our language is consistent across the different channels. So if someone does see a YouTube ad, are they going to get a similar message on Facebook, or if we're using Google, if we're using remarketing lists, are we making sure we're hitting them at the right point in their buyer journey as consistent with all the other channels? So to answer your question, it's basically making sure that we've got the whole pod talking together, all the channels working on one funnel, and then within that, just making sure that we've got our media spread to a point where we are giving ourselves an opportunity to consistently bring in new prospects.
So we've had some incredible tips there from all three of you guys, you know, some great campaigns there, and then they almost sound perfect, but I'm sure that they're not completely perfect, and perhaps looking back in it, you would have perhaps changed one thing. So what we'd like to do just now is actually go back through the three of you again to actually ask you two questions. The first question will be, what was one thing that you would change, actually looking back on it now? What was one perhaps mistake you made, or thing that you could have done better, that you would do better next time around? And then the next question we'll ask you is just one actionable tip that you could leave with our listeners just before we head off. But let's get the mistake first of all. So it might not be a mistake, it might just be a learning. Duncan, what's your thoughts on that one? What's something that you would improve next time around?
So I mentioned our mistake before, and that was scaling our growth way too fast without the proper resources in place. We got 6,000 leads in the first month, 7,000 the next month. But did the leads turn into sales? Not really, because we didn't have the right sales infrastructure. So we actually had to stop and put a stop on leads for 3 to 4 months when they first came on as a client. And we just built basically automated marketing machines while we were waiting for them to build out their sales team and fix some things there. So the mistake was definitely scaling too fast and scaling with the wrong data. We shouldn't have scaled leads. We should have looked at the sales data in hindsight. But like I said before, you get excited. The client was excited. The sales team were excited. They were getting so many leads, right? But leads doesn't equal sales. If you can't call them all within, as fast as possible, within an hour generally. If you ring it in 48 hours later, it's because there's so many coming in, it's just too late. So you have to have your systems. You should probably work on fixing the bottom of your funnel first, like your sales process, what you do after they become a customer, etc., before you scale, because that's pretty hard to fix while you're in the middle of scaling a campaign or a business. It's pretty hard to fix the bottom of the funnel, so it's good to fix that first. The one actionable tip would be to focus on evergreen and automation as much as you can with all of your marketing. So we did a lot of work on awareness. So focusing on common internet problems. We didn't talk about in 2017, here's a piece of content, or in 2018, this is what the internet's going to be, as much as we talked about how to fix your internet, things like that. So because we built a lot of evergreen assets, over time, our organic traffic grew. Our number of email subscribers into an automated email sequence grew. So that meant that even if we were on holiday on an island somewhere, like the marketing would still be working. If you do focus too much of your time on time-based content, what happens is you just have your dips, and it might be a high, but you can't scale the campaigns as much as possible because all your time, energy, and money is going into those same things each time. We'd rather build something, get it automated, have it evergreen so it just runs. It could be a big marketing funnel that's evergreen, pushing people through different remarketing stages, and then move on to the next thing, because there's always more you can do. And if you don't automate and use evergreen, you can't move on to the next thing. So it'd be the one actionable tip.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Duncan. Well, you can find Duncan, of course, over at webprofits.com.au.
Cheers.
And I'll pop over to Matt. So Matt, it's on to you now. First of all, what was the one thing that you would change, or a mistake that you wish you could do over from this campaign?
If you just unmute yourself, Matt.
No, Matt.
If you just click the second settings icon at the top, you should see an unmute option. Hopefully you'll be able to do that.
We can see your lips moving, but unfortunately you're still muted, Matt. If you mouse over on your screen, at the top of your screen, put the mouse over at the top of the screen, there should appear a series of icons, and one of them will be a microphone. Oh, okay. I can see that Russ is going to save the day.
But
Yeah.
super stuff. We'll get there in a second. But there's Judith, there's so much incredible value shared as well here. I just thought I'd keep you on the toes just now, just to not do things in the order that we agreed beforehand. I thought I'd just see if you were listening there. But
Of course.
you were, yeah.
Well, and then of course I went with Matt before. Instead of at the end, I went with Matt before Russ. But I see our Matt is going on to Russ, and he's just being fitted up for his headset.
Sorry guys, the computer froze.
So I was furiously trying to unmute, and so sorry about that.
No problem. So Russ, sorry, I'm calling you Russ now because you're sitting in the wrong seat. But no, Matt, if you just start again as if we've just asked you, just so we can cut it in, so there's not any issue with the audio editing for the podcast. So Judith just asked you obviously about the biggest mistake or learning that you would change next time around.
Yeah, well, I think definitely Duncan did touch on a really important point in that. Particularly if you're an online business, it costs way more to acquire people than it does to convert them. So if your website's not converting or your sales process is not working, then you're basically spending a lot of money to get people that aren't going to actually convert. I think for our particular campaign, and this was largely time based. We would have liked to do a lot more testing at the top of the funnel. So particularly on Facebook, for your engagement stuff, creative is really important, and getting the right look and feel and copy to your ads on Facebook, and testing things like video versus static images, stuff like that, can make a huge difference in how much it's going to cost you per engagement, and how effective those engagements actually are. So for us, we were had our backs against the wall in terms of time trying to get this stuff out. But definitely, in an ideal world, I would recommend basically testing everything that you do thoroughly on Facebook, because the changes in results from just making one simple change to the creative on Facebook can be phenomenal.
That can be your actionable tip as well, if you'd like. Or is there a separate actionable tip that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier, but I think the actionable tip, and it's something that Russ also spoke about, is make sure you are funneling people in at the top of the funnel. Don't neglect that part of your marketing, because unless you're a huge player with lots of traffic to your website, there isn't going to be a bottom of the funnel if you're not putting people in at the top. So I think, that would definitely be my tip. Even though it can be hard to see. Hard to see those, real concrete results that you want to see at first. If you do your top of the funnel correctly, then you will move people down and they will buy from you. So don't neglect that part.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You can find Matt Laurie over at yellowoctopus.com.au with some fantastic stuff. And the quick handoff occurs, and we're back with a Russ.
Hello.
Fantastic.
We pulled that together seamlessly, didn't we?
Absolutely. No one will notice a thing. So, Russ, what we'll do is we'll also ask you first if there was one thing that you could change or do differently now that you've done this campaign in hindsight, or what you felt the biggest mistake was. What would you change?
No worries. One thing we would change in hindsight, I talked a bit before about the top of funnel and making sure that we're, in terms of media on Google, Facebook, making sure we're focusing there. Within the organic Google space, we got some really big wins with SEO, but I really feel we could have added more of a content strategy to this specific campaign. And we've had some really good success with other clients, especially within the fashion space as well, in writing blog content and then having them repurpose that for things like podcasts and video and the like, to really build that sort of brand awareness within the SEO space. So that, to me, is a really exciting space for us, potentially for Billy J, but for other clients as well, to make sure that we're getting that content strategy. And it obviously supports anything we're doing on-site and off-site with the SEO. But the way you can repurpose a lot of that content in terms of making it into audio, video, and the like, it's just, content is always good to build that brand equity.
And then we'll go with your one actionable tip that our listeners and viewers can take away with them for the future for their own businesses.
No worries. I just basically harking on that. I think just repurposing content. People think they see things like there was this Gary Vee quote recently, and it was something like you should be creating 1,000 pieces of content a week or something like ridiculous. But he is right that content, the more content the better. But I think what people think is, wow, do I have to think of 1,000 new ideas? No, you can just think of one idea and repurpose it a lot. A 3-minute video, you might be able to cut into 10, 15 different snippets of gold. A blog piece might end up being a podcast or a couple of videos, which you can then repurpose again and again and again. So it's about understanding that one really good idea, meaty idea, can potentially be repurposed into a number of different types of content, which you can then spread across, your integrated campaigns to build that awareness and get people pushed down through your funnel.
Being really efficient with your time and sprinkling all the love everywhere. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Russ. You can find Russ over at impressive.com.au. I've been your co-host, Judith Lewis. You can find me at dickhabit.com.
And I'm David Bain, your other co-host. You can find me over at digitalmarketingradio.com. We'll be recording the next episode, Season 2, Episode 13, and I'll keep some of the scoop back on the SEM Rush YouTube page on Wednesday, 9th of January 2019. At the usual time, 5 p.m. GMT, that's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That one will be an SEO testing-themed episode. And our guests are scheduled to be Will Critchlow from Distilled and Bastian Grimm from Peak Ace AG.
And if you liked what you heard today, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast too. Just head over to semrush.com/podcast and find the link there to your favorite show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Android, and many other good podcast stores. And remember, don't just listen, subscribe to the show. Subscribers help our rankings, so that would be much appreciated.
Indeedy. But until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios.